find if I don't hit record, those little pre and post conversations,
Gems.
there's always something worth having. It's like, and it never comes up. So I was like, right, as soon as they're in, hit record.
It's like when you're doing takes in the studio, isn't it?
I liken to it all the time. Like, just record everything.
Yeah.
Because if you've got it, I can delete it easier. But if it's not
Yeah,
recorded, then
exactly.
I can't get it back. What's going on? How's the summer looking?
Summer. So I tend to teach at certain like colleges and unis. So actually, summer there's a bit less going on purely because you're outside of typical term times, really. So
Yeah.
some private teaching, some functions, some session bits. I've got my own trio. We've got some shows coming up in August. Some ad music, like sync music kind of thing. And at the tail end of marking as well.
Yeah.
Especially the postgrads that I teach, they have a longer term, I guess, than undergrads, I suppose.
Okay.
So yeah, some at the tail end of marking, which is quite nice. When I'm teaching, I kind of do a balance of like, often I can be on the instrument, but I'm also very occasionally given industry modules and like academic modules by some of the kind of unis, colleges or whatever. And that's quite nice because this is like a very unscientific thing to say, but it feels like I'm using a slightly different, similar but slightly different part of my brain.
Right.
So that's quite nice. Yeah.
Okay. And what colleges and unis do you teach at?
So I'm not there as regularly anymore, but I am technically still doing little bits and bobs at BIM London in Fulham.
Yeah.
And I'm mainly at NTU London. So NTU is just Nottingham Trent University. So they they now, as of the past year or two, they have a campus in central kind of East London, like Whitechapel kind of area.
Yeah.
So I'm mainly there, and I still do wee bits and bobs. Yeah, I did some marking recently for Trinity in Greenwich, but I don't teach there or anything like that. But.
Okay. And so anyway, what was learning music like in Aberdeen?
I had
fighting oil rigs.
yeah, basically. There was quite a kind of buoyant economy because that's not supposed to be some dreadful pun on like the North Sea or something. Yeah. But there was a kind of in Aberdeen at the time because of the North Sea and everything. So there was a really good music shop. It's gone now, but it was called R&B Music, run by a guy called Ross Donald and a chap called Bill. And Ross never really gave me formal lessons, but I kind of learned through him informally quite a lot. And he also knew a slightly younger chap called Andy Watson, who was a guitar tutor around. He wasn't tied to the music shop, but he was a guitar tutor around Aberdeenshire and whatnot.
Yeah.
And those guys were one of my first they're like one of my first entries into, I guess, like a lot of the LA kind of guitar players, like your Dan Huffs and your Steve Lukather's and those sort of folk. They were all more into that stuff than I was, but obviously those guys are like super amazing and they kind of open my eyes and ears to different sounds and different approaches to the guitar. And people like Andy Watson, who was my guitar teacher there, he was super into like Mike Landau and all those amazing kind of LA players. And then from there, there was some of the more technical stuff like your kind of Joe Satriani's and Inkley Malmsteens and the classic folk that people listen to and reference when they're younger. But really, though, I was kind of more into, I don't know about like formal learning of music or formal lessons, but really in my heart of hearts, I still just love like bands and listening to records and trying to figure out what the band's playing and what the guitarist is doing and stuff. So really my informal learning was just listening to bands that which were prevalent at the time. So a lot of, everything from like Tool to Deftones to At the Drive-In, Nirvana, Pixies, Fugazi, Rage Against the Machine, I don't know, like Metallica, all the stuff that folk were listening to. Like, I guess, there's a lot of informal bedroom learning. And then through Ross at the music shop and especially through Andy Watson with my guitar lessons, there was a lot of like, okay, we're going to explore a man called Steve Lukather. I'm like, okay,
Mm,
cool.
cool.
So it's a bit of a
Strap in.
mashup. Yeah, yeah. And I still feel like I'm like that today. I'm mainly in Kurt Cobain world, but I've also done quite a lot of the kind of more techie stuff as well. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, with the various kind of your classic kind of players who are a bit more kind of virtuosic or whatever. So yeah, I don't know, kind of ricocheting around those worlds, and I think I've kind of I continue to be in a middle ground, I think, between those worlds in some way. But
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like learning, like the bedroom learning thing was big for me. Like I remember having an interactive CD-ROM, which
what,
I could never quite figure out how to get it to work properly.
on your
Uh,
computer, like
yeah,
what's it like? Encyclopedia? What did they call it? 97 or something. Did you
Encarta.
ever have that? Encarta, that was
Yes,
it.
yeah, yeah. It was What's the Story Morning Glory. It was an interactive thing, so it was almost like if you imagine like the very early days of YouTube, but you compressed it all onto a CD that you then had to
Mm.
install onto your computer. It was a bit like that. So there was like graphics and pictures and strum along little videos, and
What, that came with Morning Glory?
yeah, you could buy it. It was
Ah,
I never saw another one for as long as I lived. It must have been like one of the early prototypes.
oh
Um,
wow! I didn't know that they did that.
yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
think
quite cool.
they probably stopped because I couldn't get the fucking thing to load. I couldn't get any of the songs and the playbacks to play back.
Ah,
But
I did used to get the you're talking about like growing up in Aberdeen and learning. Probably like a lot of folk my age, I would buy occasionally the official tab books and stuff like
yeah,
that of artists and stuff. And I don't know if I ever had an Oasis one, but I love Oasis. But yeah, I didn't know that they did that interactive thing. That's cool.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I've never, like I said, I've never seen one since. Never seen one before.
Yeah.
I'll do a search on it, see if I can find it. But but yeah, that was because I
I,
couldn't get it to work. I was then forced to just try and figure it out by ear.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
kind of feel like that's something that's missing from a lot of people's learnings, because access to the information is so easy and so abundant.
yeah, yeah. That's true. What I used to do is I would buy. I specifically remember buying Rage Against the Machine official Rage Against the Machine tab books, which like 98% of it was great. But I remember for the first record, like the self-titled first record, there was like the bullet in the head, like solo transcription. There was something like that where I'd open up, I'd be like, I I don't think, is that right? Is that how Tom Morello does it? So
Yeah,
then I go into the family computer and download like whatever Rage Against the Machine live in 1993 playing
yeah,
Bullet in the Head, and then try and like look at the book whilst watching this like LimeWire download that probably gave my mum and dad's computer some virus or whatever. And I was like, no, I don't think that's how he's doing it. And yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, I do. I'm probably, it's probably like highly romantic, but I do semi kind of miss those days, and even things like listening to Nirvana records, and it took someone else to say, you know that they're in E flat, right? And I'm like,
yeah.
what? Or some
Who?
often they would be, not always, but most of the time they've been. I was like, what do you mean? Like, well, you can't just tune to E. You have to tune the turn, tune the tuning pegs. You have to go down a semitone.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and obviously now it's like highly romantic and like, oh, the joys of learning when you're 15, and but at the time it was probably like incredibly frustrating.
Like, I don't know how I got through it. Like
Yeah,
trying to transcribe even just chord progressions. It's like, what is that? That fucking chord doesn't exist. It doesn't
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
exist. It's nowhere on my neck. And then
yeah.
I
Well,
go to my teacher. I said, look, I'm struggling with this song. It's like, it's just a G. I'm like, but it's
yeah,
played
yeah,
up.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
played here. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah. Did you ever? I realized when I moved south to study and stuff, I realized that my chord vocabulary was actually like my scale and some arpeggio knowledge was maybe like here. My chord vocab and my ability to execute chords was like there. I don't know.
yeah,
Was that like you when you
yep,
were?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to study at the ACM, and I
Okay.
remember term one was like very, very soft, very coddled. We always had the tab. We get shown through it with the teacher, and they'd walk us through the song step by step. By term 3, we just had the charts, no tab, and then the tutor that we had would just say, like, I'll write some chords up on the board. Like, here's the chords. It's A flat 13, B flat, sharp 11. Here's a couple of voices for it. Figure it out yourself. Which one do you want to use? Which ones
Oh
do
my
you want to
God.
choose? I was like, oh, right,
I'd have
okay.
been so bad at that.
I was like,
At that
oh,
age.
fuck, all right,
Yeah.
okay. But like even today, like I try and make sure that like chord chops are on it, like
Yeah.
because it's what I do 95% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
sure.
I try to instill that on my students as well. I was like, look, we can learn Stairway to Heaven. We can learn the solo to that. Like it's a good thing to learn. But dude, you can you play B flat minor?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you get
Yeah.
to B flat minor from C? And can you do it
Sure.
without thinking?
Yeah.
Because that's gonna come up more than the Stairway to Heaven solo.
Yeah. 100%. I actually do that. That's kind of that same ethos is mirrored in what I was doing recently, where I was teaching at NTU London, the sort of Nottingham Trent University's campus in sort of Whitechapel. Certainly for the first year guitarists, I was in charge of putting together some of their kind of etudes, like exam pieces, and like 90% of it is chords and maybe some like chart reading, but it's mainly chords. And of course, it's that thing where a student would then look at it, and it's understandable because we probably all had this attitude when we were 18 or whatever. You'd look at it, it's like, well, that's pretty straightforward. Um, but of course, to then execute it consistently to a metronome, obviously, it then becomes apparent, it's maybe not as straightforward as I thought it was. That, which is maybe a difference. Sometimes I talk to students, and I tell myself this as well, because I fall into this as well sometimes. But understanding something and actually playing it really well, they are different things.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a danger of like, oh yeah, intellectually I understand this, so just give me something else, give me another exercise. It's like, yeah, but I know you understand it because it's quite straightforward, but executing it is slightly different to understanding it on an intellectual level. But yeah.
It's
so yeah, big fan on focusing on chords. Yeah.
It's humbling when, like, if I do a show and I start flicking through the pad. I did Annie last year. I don't know if you ever done Annie.
I haven't done any. I haven't done musical based stuff in a while, but I did used to do quite a bit in like local, not West End stuff, but like theatres in and around like Sussex and Surrey and like home counties and stuff. Do you know a guy called Matt Greaves? Do you know Matt?
No.
He'd be a good chap to have on the podcast, actually. But yeah, Matt's super in that world, and he's very much in the West End and stuff these days. But yeah, he kind of got me in on a few shows. But no, I've never done Annie. No.
Yeah, but yeah, I flicked through the pad. I was like, oh, this is just chords. That's okay. This is chords. Like the whole, but it's just chords. You're just sitting usually on just the 2 and the 4. I was like, this is nice and easy. But then trying to get through an entire tune where it's just like and the chords are changing like every beat, like A major, A13, start from 5, B flat 7. I was like, fuck. And I remember when I was doing it, one of my students said, "What's the hardest song you can play?" And I put this chart in front of him. I said, "That."
Yeah.
I can't remember what the song was, but, and he looked at me and went, "It's just chords." I was like, "Let's have a go. Here's the click. Da, 1, 2, 3." And he's like, "Oh fuck!" I was like, "Yeah. It's a roast."
Where does it come from? This idea of like, well, he's a good rhythm guitarist. Almost sounds like people sometimes say it in a kind of what's the right phrase? Like backhanded compliment or something
slightly
like that.
Degrading or slightly underhanded. Yeah. I don't know. I remember doing a gig years ago, and a friend of mine who's a huge music fan but doesn't play came to the gig. It was an originals gig, and he came up and he said, "What guitar are you playing?" I said, "Oh, I just got a telly." And he went, "No, rhythm or lead." I was like, "Oh, that's an odd question." I was like, "Well, it's kind of a bit of both. It's like we kind of trade off bits, but it's not really like a lead guitar playing band." But I guess it's like 80%. It's like 80% rhythm, 90% rhythm. But that can be said for every single gig.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? Maybe it's like a physical, mechanical thing. Like if somebody sees fingers doing this, then
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is hard. And whereas if they're doing this, then that's
That's
not hard.
easy.
I don't
But yeah,
know. I don't know where it comes from.
take a walk through a Ted Green song. Just tell me how easy the comping
Oh
chords
my
is then.
God. Yeah, I remember that was a name that I first heard in a music school context, and somebody said you need to get and try and digest some of Chord Chemistry, his
Yeah.
book, whatever. I think I lasted about 3 pages, if that.
But even
And I
if
was
you
like,
like, I've got chord chemistry. I'm looking at it now. Like you can go through page one, and there's
oh
there's
my
a
god,
year's worth of stuff, 2 years
yeah,
worth of
yeah, yeah.
stuff, and then there's
He's a
still
madman.
98 pages.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, yeah, that. Yeah, I mean, he really he wasn't like a. He's obviously a total genius and like he's amazing. He was never like a personal hero growing up or anything, but like yeah, he's one of the names that I was introduced to. And yeah, like I said, in a music school context. And yeah, just one of the many, many moments where you go, man, I really suck and I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're feeling pretty good about yourself, and it's like, have a look at Chord Chemistry by Ted Green. You're like, oh, man. But
Yeah.
it's also so amazing and inspiring at the same time. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I've had a couple of people on that used to have lessons with him, and they said that he was just the nicest guy.
Mm.
Like the guy that was the guy Troy, who was on my previous episode, said that he went for lessons, and he was never this kind of guy that would just roast you and smash the shit out of you if you didn't practice. He was just like, yeah, man, let's have a look at X, Y, and Z. Let's have a look at this. You
Yeah.
know, this could use a little bit of work. So let's just, and he would sit there and have conversations with him. And Ted's just sitting there, just playing this playing and chatting. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
difficult to listen to him because damn, man, it's just such a beautiful
Yeah.
player.
That was the backlash with Whiplash, wasn't it? Like some
Mm.
folk musicians or and educators and whatever, they're like, oh, it's. I know it makes her. Well, it's a kind of age old story. Like, it makes for a great film, but it's maybe not the best way to go about teaching. But
So I love. I think Whiplash is one of my favorite films,
mm.
and I love the fact that what we see is like, first of all, I have to say that his treatment of students is appalling. It's appalling, and his method is
But
appalling. But his results, but there is something to be said. When you see the film, you just think, what a fucking
mm,
arsehole. You can't treat people like this. You can't
mm,
use those kind of words. You can't speak to people like this. But then when he has that moment with him in the bar and they're sat down having a drink, and he goes, look, any arsehole can wave a fucking stick and keep a band in time. But I no one knew what I was trying to do, and I actually I actually tried. I never had a Charlie Parker, but I fucking tried, and that is the difference. That's what I
mm,
was trying to do. And then you kind of just step back for a little bit and go, you did try.
mm.
Maybe, yeah, your
Yeah.
method. You can't throw chairs at people though, but you did try. Um, and it kind of like I do take a little bit of that into my teaching. It's like, look, if you're gonna be good, you have to do this. And if
Mm,
people come at me, like I had a kid, he was a guy, he's in his mid-20s, and he came for a lesson. He sat down, and 3 weeks on the trot, he sat down. He said, oh, I've been so busy, I haven't had time to do any practice. And I thought, right, I'll let the first one go, I'll let the second. He came in the third week and he said the exact same thing. I
mm.
just haven't had any time to practice. And I said, you liar, I don't believe you. I was like,
And you threw a chair.
I don't believe you. I've said this, and every week I say the same. I would say the same things. Like, look, let's not focus on 20 minutes practice a day. Just play every day. I don't
Mm.
care if it's 30 seconds or you manage to get 20 minutes. Just play every day. And then when I said this
Yeah.
to him, I said, look, I don't believe you. I don't believe you didn't have a minute where you were sat down, where you couldn't find 1 minute. Every minute was just jam packed with so much stuff. I said, I don't believe you. Even if you're watching TV, when the adverts come on, pick your fucking guitar up and just sit there and just play
Yeah.
it. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be a structured practice. Just
Yeah.
have it and make it
Yeah.
easy as well. Have your guitar out. Don't have it in the case. Don't put the case away. Buy a fucking guitar stand, and the room you
Yeah.
spend the most amount of time in, put the stand in there, put the guitar on the stand, and when you find yourself having a minute of doing nothing. You've turned the microwave on. You're waiting for a thing to download. Pick the
Mm.
freaking guitar up and just play
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Well, yeah. There's I think two things on your first point. I remember a friend of mine said, "Sandy, you know that I didn't have time. That's like the adult version of the dog ate my homework,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, okay." And honestly, I think about that a lot when the words leave my mouth, because we're all probably guilty of it. Like, I didn't have time. I'm like, do you know what? I'll just do it now. Or I didn't
Yeah.
have time and I'll do it tonight or whatever. Like, yeah. And then second of all, hang on, I was going to say something else. Oh yes, yes. I suppose you're talking about optimizing your room or optimizing your setup so that picking up the guitar or songwriting or whatever you're doing
Yeah.
is more likely, and there's less friction between you and the activity sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's actually why you can't see it. But I've got a keyboard set up here, and obviously I put all my guitars on the walls and stuff. And that is partially because obviously they look nice, but it's
Yeah.
also because yeah, especially with practice or songwriting or being creative, whatever. Like, yeah, you want this little friction between between you and the actual activity. You know.
Yeah.
So sorry, I don't know what's going on in my voice today. I sound like I've got a
No,
cold.
it's still early for me. I'm still a little croaky. 2 coffees in and a glass
Well,
of
yeah. I was saying at the top that I have a student who, I mean, I should be awake. I was teaching 8 till 9 this morning, which is unusual, but I have a student who is adamant that he wants his private lessons at 8 a.m.
I think that's
So
great.
I honestly,
I
yeah,
think it's brilliant.
I was genuinely, he's got such a great attitude. Shout
Yeah.
out to Dan if you watch this. But yeah, he's great, and I was like, wow, it's quite inspiring for me. Just get up
Yeah.
and go, and yeah.
Let's go. Like people that go running first thing in the morning. It's like, it's not for me, but fair play for you for doing it.
Man, I used to, I mean, for about 3 months, this is like 10 years ago, for about 3 months, I did the whole like exercise classes at 6:30 in the morning kind of thing.
Right.
And now obviously I don't have children or anything like that. So I appreciate if there's anyone with like kids listening, it's a completely different beast, obviously. But even still, I was like, yeah. And then I got like an injury or something, because it was like, I don't live that far away from Clapham Common. Anyway, it was all on Clapham Common outdoors, and I got an injury, and then that was the end of getting up at 6 in the morning to train at 6. But yeah, it's quite good, I think, sometimes to have things away from music and the guitar. I think it's quite
Do you
healthy.
know, I always want to ask people this. Like, do you do anything else, like any other interests or hobbies outside of music?
Yes, so all sorts of things. I'm a massive Rest is History. I mean, Rest is History kind of podcast geek.
Right.
So I like reading history books, and I like listening to history podcasts. Does that count? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
that counts. Okay, cool, that counts. And then my master's is actually it's a slightly long story, although, well, whatever. I have an MSc in psychology as well, as you do. But
Yeah.
I just had an interest in psychology, not so much the kind of therapeutic side. I think in today's culture, people, when you say that, people instantly just think of mental health and therapy and stuff like that, which obviously is part of the umbrella term psychology, but more interested in cognitive psychology and social psych and this kind of stuff, behavioral psychology. So yeah, I don't know. I began reading the books of especially people like Steven Pinker and stuff, like maybe 15 years ago, and then randomly had an opportunity to do a master's in it. So I love that kind of stuff. I like football. I play football a couple times a week. There's actually a musicians league that I play in. I'm not a league, sorry. It's a musicians group that I play in on a Wednesday morning. And so I'm playing tomorrow morning, actually.
Okay.
And there's the kind of perennial issue of, I love football, I want to do something outside of music, all the rest of it. But then you have the perennial issue is, am I going to take a ball to the hand and I can't play for 6 weeks? So there's a musician called Joe, who he literally he couldn't earn for about, I guess, a month or something, because he fell on his hand, or he took a ball to the hand or something like that. And he's a bass player. So there's a slight hobby, sometimes non-music hobbies and music can collide.
Yeah.
Do
you take any? I play chess and I race go-karts.
Oh yeah, I did see a go-kart thing on your
Yeah,
Instagram,
yeah.
actually.
So what I wanted to ask, like, do you take any of like going into any of those other areas? Do you take anything that you've learned as a musician into those arenas, like an approach
Oh,
or like a mindset or how to
um,
practice?
interesting. Um, I, I suppose the only thing I would take I would take from music into other areas is that I suppose I don't know. I guess you're doing something in a particular sector to a very high, like to kind of a high level, to a professional sort of level.
Mm,
I mean, obviously, I'm not fucking Stevie Wonder or something,
yeah,
obviously, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know what it is to do something at a high level in a particular subsector or
yeah,
whatever. Um, so I suppose sometimes you can use that maybe to guide you in some kind of vague way, like in terms of, I don't know, it's like, why? Well, I know what it is to work hard and to focus on this
mm,
in this field. So I'm going to try, even though I might not have the same skill sets, or I don't know, in another field, I'm going to try and kind of meet that level or work hard and focus in the
mm,
same sense. Like, because you kind of know what it is to work hard and focus intently on or intensely, whatever the word would be, yeah, on that, on your guitar, on music. So I
yeah,
suppose that's maybe a touch vague, but do you know what I mean? Like I do.
yeah, yeah.
That's one thing I take. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I've when I started karting, like I started when I was 15, and I did it
Is
for
that what the
a
pros color? Do you leave out the go and it just becomes karting?
yeah, yeah, and I stopped when I had kids, and
Right.
I would kind of filter in every now and again, and it was about 2 years ago that I took it back up, and I was kind of doing it weekly. And I was like, man, up against regular pedestrians, like I'm okay. But when I'm racing against the members, like I'm fucking getting rinsed.
Yeah. Right.
And I then had to just adopt this attitude of I suck at this by comparison, and that's okay because that means there's areas to work on. There's things I need to learn, and then you just start. I guess it's like when you play with people better than you. It's like, right, I'm gonna just see if I can lock in with the bass player. I'm gonna see if I can follow what is the keyboard player doing. What is the drum like? Where are the accents? Where can I fit my little thing in? Where's the groove? Where's the tempo? Where's the pocket? Where's the thing? Um, I would do when I was overtaken by faster people. It's like, right, just try and latch onto the back of him, even if it's for a lap. See where he's quicker. See where you're slowing down, and then you can just start to make these tiny little improvements. And then
Mhm.
it's like, and I had a student just before we broke up for the holidays. I asked him, like, how have you found learning learning music, learning guitar? And he's like, frustrating. And I'd figured out that this was a sports kid, and he was good at sports, good at football, good at
Oh,
cricket, good at
oh,
rugby. Always gets picked for the team, plays outside. And I was like, this is like, I think you naturally are a sportsman, and
yeah. Right.
it comes quite easily to you. Music hasn't come easy to you, and we've had some tears, we've had some struggles, and we've had some stresses. But um, the one thing it does is it teaches you how to get better. It teaches you that it's okay to suck at something because it gives
Mm.
you something to work on. But this is brand new to you, so it was completely alien that you were struggling, and there was a little cluster of friends all from the same class that would come in for
Mm.
lessons, but other kids have just got it quicker than you. Like,
Yeah. I would say, as a caveat to that, though, sometimes if having a natural aptitude for music is becomes consciously or subconsciously becomes part of your identity, one of the challenges is you still need to go through a moment of like, or moments of, I'm not good enough.
yeah,
And sometimes that's tricky when it's like a sports person who's pursuing a sport and then they're like, oh, actually, my kicking or my running or whatever, actually, it's not good enough. Like,
yeah,
and that could be a slight mental internal tension. Just briefly, I've had those moments where, especially when I moved to London, I was like, well, I am a musician and I'm a guitar player and I back myself. Certainly, I back myself creatively, but maybe on a musicianship level, I was like, oh, I'm actually not good enough. And I remember going to like jam nights and various things around town, and then that sort of, yeah, certainly in terms of execution, musicianship, technique, theoretical knowledge, ears, like so. I don't know if that's maybe like a caveat to what we were saying, but sometimes it can also, if you think of yourself, if your self concept is kind of like, yeah, I have a natural aptitude for X, Y, Z. Sometimes there can be a slight, there can be a slight tension when you realize that you have to have the many, many I suck moments as well.
Yeah, yeah. I did say to him, look, everybody, no matter what it is that you do,
Mhm.
eventually you run out of talent, and eventually you then have to start work. So, like
Yeah,
it's happened to you right at the start, and that kind of sucks. But if
yeah,
you can get through that and you can get to the playing bit, then it becomes so much easier. It is really hard if like someone comes up like, oh my god, G to E minor, piss easy, I can do this. It's like, okay, well let's do B flat, and then you're like, oh,
sure. Yeah,
it humbles everybody
yeah, 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 yeah.
regardless of who you are.
Yeah, and they are good. They are really good moments, and yeah, I like that idea of like the talent runs out at some point, and then like the kind of,
Then you
yeah,
have to
the
start
effort
work.
and everything. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I remember I was actually quite naive and a bit ignorant. Like one, we were saying earlier about music schools. One positive is just having, if you're doing an undergrad, it's just having a 3-year incubation period sort of thing.
Mm,
But on the flip side, like I left my undergrad in 2007, and I kind of felt like, right, well, now I'm good enough to do X, Y, Z because I've just had 3 years doing blah blah blah. And then yeah, I really I was quite naive, and I hope it wasn't an arrogance, but maybe there was a kind of ignorance and an arrogance there. And then I realized that like actually no, like now this is your apprenticeship, and this is
yeah,
when you really really find out that okay, you might be okay and pretty good at X, Y, Z, but you really suck at ABC, and you really need to get better.
yeah,
And and yeah, and certainly when I moved to London and was hanging out with musicians and guitar players, like I said, like there were certain times where certain times like I was like, okay, I back myself on some level, but I'm really not good enough. Like and but you need those moments, I suppose.
yeah.
Like
But then you just go back to the woodshed. It's like, right, open up the book. Let's get the click going.
yeah,
Let's just go back and just hack this out until I've got it. And
yeah, one hundred
that's,
percent.
I
Yeah.
mean, that cripples and buckles a lot of people when you.
Mhm.
And I always like to ask the question like, well, what point do you think most people give up? And I think uh, expecting to give up your weekends, like a lot of people are like, no, I'm not doing that. But that idea
Yeah.
of, right, okay, here's something that you've gone out to a gig, you've shagged the ass off it. Are you either gonna pack it up and give up and go home, or are you just gonna go, right, no, I'm digging my heels in and
Mhm.
I'm gonna hack this through until I can get it.
I wasn't sure if shagging the arse of it meant is that positive or negative? I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, is that a good thing? But no, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and I've had so many moments like that, and yeah, giving up weekends. That's an interesting one. I guess
Yeah,
as you get older, I understand that, but certainly like teens and 20s, like yeah, if somebody's thinking that in the earlier phases, I'm like, oh man, this probably isn't
this is not
the
for you. Yeah,
no, this isn't the
I've come across so many good players, and it's like, right, it's yeah, we're gigging Fridays and Saturdays. It's like, no,
yeah, I
well,
get it. Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
But that was. I mean, if you're going to work 9 to 5, which these people were, and then you're asking them to give up the weekend, it's like, well, do you want to give up the 9 to 5? Because if you do, you've got to do the weekend thing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
yeah,
way around it.
yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, I understand if you put the time in for a good couple of years or 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, and then you say, do you know what? I've met people and I've upskilled, and I'm actually going to pivot into more like writing for film or TV or media or
yeah,
for artists or whatever, like from home. That I get that, but like certainly when you're starting, you just have to be a yes man and just say yes to everything. And if
yeah,
that means your Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, and yeah, I mean certainly I remember one nice thing about non-performance money, so it could be teaching, it could be writing or whatever, is that very occasionally if a gig comes in and you don't necessarily want to do it, and I never really had that privilege for many years, but latterly, sometimes, if you have enough income and work in a non-performance context, you can very occasionally, if someone comes in on a Friday or Saturday and you're like, you're like, "No, do you know what? I don't, yeah, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it."
Yeah.
And that's nice, because sometimes, actually, you were talking earlier about non-musical activities, whether it's go-karting or listening to the Rest is History podcast or
Yeah.
whatever. And actually, spending time, this sounds weird because it's not an intentional thing, it's just organic, but spending time with non-musicians on a Saturday afternoon, having not taken a gig, having teaching money to afford you the privilege of saying no to an occasional Saturday
Yeah.
gig or whatever, it's really, really healthy, and it's really, really good. Not to say that you have to cultivate your
Yeah.
friendship circles in some weird way, but I think it's for me, it was like an offshoot of like growing up in Aberdeen. Various folk moved to London for various jobs, but I was the only, other than two of my friends, Murray and Jordan, like I was the only person who was doing music. And so that was good, because in London it means that uh, occasional Friday night or Saturday night, I can go and hang with those guys, and
Yeah.
it's nice, and you can just talk about whatever you're talking about, like, and
Yeah.
that's quite nice, actually. But yeah, most of the time you have to be like, I'm working on Friday or Saturday or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. But let's talk about practice. What does practice look like for you these days?
practice is interesting. So if I can be completely candid,
Please.
I have to, not in a hyper strict way, but I have had overuse injuries and RSIs and all this
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff over the years. So I can't just, I mean, maybe I could, I don't know, but like, I don't want to keep like test my body or stress it. So I don't, these days, I have put my time in doing the wood shedding stuff, but these days I don't, if I don't have to, I'm not like nailing some 7-hour picking session or whatever. So
Yeah.
practicing for me, it's often just like learning songs. Maybe it's like it's maybe more creative things, like, okay, this song doesn't have much guitar. It's mainly synth or keys based, but
Mm.
let's pretend, in my head I'll be like, let's pretend that the keys player is stuck on the M25
Yeah.
and you have to play this tune and cover the harmonic and rhythmical, like, and sonic kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
language. Like, what would you do? So often, um I was doing that. Like, I was trying recently, there is a wee bit of guitar on this record, actually, but I was recently trying to work out the voicings to Feel For You by the Shaka Khan version. I know it's a Prince tune originally, but
Yeah.
so just sometimes there's little games like that in your creative games in your head, like just working out tunes. And often it's also just composing and writing. So my practice is, yeah, like writing. And I suppose I have a guitar trio that's like, I think of it as somewhere in between Nirvana and Sonic Youth and the Pixies, and certain like Bill Frisell kind of elements, and Wayne
Right.
Krantz. Not that I can play anything like those guys, sadly, but so it's a somewhat, hopefully musical, but it's a slightly more technical music that I do in my trio. Um, so writing, preparing for gigs and writing music for that trio, that is a form of practice in itself, I find. Um, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like creative based kind of practice, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you come off the back of a gig and you've sucked at something and you've really mucked up like a unison run, or like maybe you're playing a Chic song and you on a covers gig, and the next day you're like, God, I really was struggling to get to that slash chord or
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Then I might like drill that for a bit, like, I don't know. Everybody Dance by Chic. There's a
Hmm.
bit that goes from like A flat major 7 to like F kind of add 11 over A or something, and then it goes to like an A flat over B flat. It's something like that. And I
Yeah.
remember I'm going like, ooh, on the gig, like, ooh, actually that's not too good.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about problem solving those little issues, but a lot of time, yeah, it's composing and stuff like that. And I do quite a bit of ad writing, well, not loads, but I do quite a bit of ad writing and occasional music for artists. So sometimes it's like you're writing and you're building up ideas and putting them on the hard drive and building up a bit of a bank. And
Mm.
but yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question, but
Yeah,
mm,
no, sure. Like you
yeah.
mentioned writing for ads and stuff. Like, how do you think AI is going to affect that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of dip my toe into that world. My friends that are in that world pretty much full time, they are a bit like, hmm, is this, is it? Are we going to arrive at a point where, yeah, you're just prompting an AI to write the music for like an ad?
Yeah,
And yeah, I do have friends that are like, they were pitching things, and maybe I had a friend who said maybe they heard a few of the other tracks that are being pitched, and he was like, I think that's a loop from an AI thing, or I think that's from that. And I don't know. I don't know if AI is going to replace everything, or it's going to be more of a kind of like cyborg situation where humans are just working with AI the whole time, and
yeah,
and then and in certain areas of the creative industries that's deemed okay. But I don't know. I think obviously like artists and stuff. I think audiences will always want artists to be artists and to be human, but
mm,
with utilitarian music and for certain like business or commercial applications, like I don't know, like yeah, adverts, hold music. I mean, I don't know, like maybe it'll be less taboo to like use AI. I don't know. It's yeah, but I anecdotally I've heard some of my friends who are in that space full time, kind of professionally, they are slightly concerned about encroaching kind of AI or human AI kind of collabs that are going on. Yeah. But
yeah,
like I said, I think artists and stuff are cool, but yeah, with sync and ads, there is a concern. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I think
like
it'll. I think it'll probably take over library music. I don't think that's.
yeah, uh, yeah. Or is it? I don't know. Is it going to be like like in the West, that the sort of theatre district, like the West End in London, they're pretty hot on having live musicians and and not having backing track or replacing live musicians. And I remember when was it like Warhorse came in? Do you
Hmm.
remember this? And
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
MU
think
ended up
so.
getting involved because they wanted to use far fewer musicians and put stuff on track, or it was something like that.
Yeah,
And I and I
there's still
wonder,
loads on track. Like I did a show a couple of weeks ago. It was
yeah,
keys, two guitar, everything else on track. Mm,
interesting. So yeah, do you think it's weakening then, maybe
I mean,
slightly?
I
Like,
think there's always going to be tracks used
hmm
because
hmm
I think just the modern writing is using so many different sounds, so many different pads that
yes,
you would have to have a 70-piece orchestra to perform it all live. But
hmm
yeah, I mean, I've got other. I don't do a lot of work in the West End. I've had a couple of shows and that's it. I've got friends
hmm
that do it, and they're there all every week, and who would have a much better insight into how much track is used. But from
sure,
my experience, there is a lot of tracks used, and it's yeah, it's
yeah.
obviously taking work out of people. But
Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, I guess I was kind of drawing that comparison because I was thinking like, is there going to be a bit of a pushback and a bit of a battle there? Because I know like the MU are pretty hot with certain shows and certain productions and stuff. Um, but or I don't know, or is it just going to be a capitulation, in terms of the library sync kind of space? I mean, I did the music for a big coffee advert recently,
hmm,
and like last year, and I was wondering, yeah, even when I was doing it, I was like, oh, fast forward 5-10 years, am I even going to get this sort of work? Because yeah, um but yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, because
Really
it's
hard.
new, there's very little regulation.
Yeah, right,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
would think as it starts to encroach massively onto people's lives, it would then have to
Mhm.
be like regulation, boundaries, rules, and laws will have to be set up
Sure,
so
sure,
that
sure.
it's just contained and limited because you can't let it run rampant across the whole music industry.
Mm, mm,
So,
mm.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I was reading that Spotify had to remove 750 million songs that have all just been AI generated and just dumped in there.
yeah,
Um,
right.
so yeah, there's going to have to be some kind of infrastructure, some kind of
I think, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to know how to navigate it. I mean, I wonder if like I don't know, should there be some sort of like quite conspicuous disclaimer, like if it's been AI partly AI
Tidal
composed.
already is. Tidal
Oh,
have
yeah, okay.
they're
Yeah,
already labeling any song that has got any AI generated any music or any loops or any tracks or anything that's AI generated is labeled as a
yeah.
AI.
I wonder if Bandcamp doing that, maybe. I heard, possibly.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I haven't heard.
I don't know, maybe not. I think there was something like that. Yeah, there was some kind of pushback, but yeah. Yeah, it's so hard. Anything new, it's really hard to figure out like what's the right path, or I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. It's
Hopefully we will. Hopefully we will. I'm going to ask you this before I let you go. Do
yeah.
you have any nuggets or tidbits or practice routines that you kind of rely on?
Nuggets. Well, I would say, do you mean just like general advice or anything
Yeah,
or stuff like
or
that?
anything, any little exercises or any little routines you like. Do you know what, this is really good for getting XYZ down?
I would say a practice of mine. Well, it's maybe two things. A practice of mine that to enhance, hopefully, kind of enhance your kind of sound and your creativity. I'd say listening to music. That sounds so dumb, right?
It does, but
But
it's
like, I
it's
keep
key.
a, I keep a, I keep a listening diary. And maybe I shouldn't admit that because it sounds kind of nerdy and weird. But um, someone will recommend a record or an artist, and it could have been released last week, or it could have been released 50 years ago, 100 years ago,
Yeah.
whatever it was. But I will listen to a lot. Sometimes before I write music or compose, I will listen. I'll spend an hour or two, or maybe just half an hour, whatever, like listening. You know,
Mm,
because before we are writers or before we are performers, we are we
yeah.
are listeners first and foremost. So just keeping an ear to the ground for like older sounds that you may have missed, right the way through to interesting new sounds. I really, really don't like. Occasionally, you get stuff where it's like, "Where's all the good music?" And I'm like, "You're not looking hard enough. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? There's so much good stuff." Like, so sort of keeping an ear to the ground with that. I'm almost amazed that occasionally you get some musicians who don't. They get to a certain age, maybe some musicians I've spoken to over the years, and they stop listening to music or they stop listening to new music.
Mm,
Um, and then it becomes more like they love music, they're really good at it, it's a job, but they're not that fussed about it. It
right.
kind of reminds me of like, do you know Ben White that plays for Arsenal, the defender?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, I think I'm thinking of Ben White. Like he's an incredible footballer, but he doesn't really care too much about football, or he doesn't watch football analyses or anything like that. And
Right.
very, very occasionally you can come across musicians like that, and I'm like, oh no, I don't. I say, oh, I don't think that's the way to go. But
You're a musician, but you're not a music fan.
they're music fan, but like they're like up until 1997, I'm a music fan. I'm like, oh come on, there's so much good music. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I do hear that from musicians and non-musicians. Very, very occasionally, I'll hear that, and I'm like, oh no, 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 come on. And then I'll probably like spam them with like
Yeah.
records that are really great from the past 10 years. Anyway, so that'd be the first thing. And then now I can't remember. I had two things, and now I can't remember. Oh yeah, I'd say the biggest thing for me is when I moved, especially when I moved to London, I felt a big pressure internally. It's really silly because most of the time this is not really coming from the external. I'm just inventing this crap in
Mm,
my own head. But I felt a big pressure to like what everyone else liked and to play how everyone else was playing, or maybe more accurately, play how I thought people wanted me to play.
yeah. Yeah.
And like it's like, okay, so and yeah, and it's like, okay, so people are kind of like, they're kind of digging John Mayer, they're kind of digging Robin Ford, they're kind of digging D'Angelo. Okay, there's
Yeah.
some fancy chords over here from Steely Dan. Okay, that's what I have to do. I just have to be in this space. But I think
Yeah.
at 100%, like, lean into your strengths and lean into your tastes and lean into like what makes you you. I
Yeah.
really, really, I actually, I had a period of just being a little bit, certainly in hindsight, I can look back and think I was a little bit unhappy and a little bit kind of like lost at sea, because I was chasing after sounds that I thought, oh, to be a professional musician, to be a guitar player is to sound like XYZ, or is to be like ABC, but it's
Mm.
really like you have to lean into all of your interests and all of your tastes, and that could be that could be like Fugazi or Sonic Youth right the way through to I don't know, whoever, like Wayne Krantz, right the way through to Miles Davis, like Joni Mitchell, I don't know, whatever, like
Yeah,
name any
yeah,
great
absolutely.
artist, but just kind of soak it all up and lean into all of it, and don't work on your weaknesses, of course, but really lean into those strengths and what makes you you, because otherwise you are just lost at sea. Like I remember speaking to, I know Jim Clark, I think's been
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this podcast, right?
yeah.
I was speaking to him about this, and this is a big talking point with him and lots of other people. But yeah, So don't, just lean into what makes you you. It's easier said than done, but
Mm.
yeah, it's so important, because otherwise you can get a bit lost, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely 100% agree. Like I have a few lessons with Jim every now and again, and the very
Hmm.
first lesson I had, I was in this I was in this weird kind of I just don't have an identity. I don't have a
Yeah.
but I didn't know that I didn't have an identity. I was just kind of a little bit lost. And he said, first of all, like, you want to double down on your strengths. That was one thing he
Yeah.
said. He said, but what I want you to do is write out a list of like almost like top trumps, like what are you really good at? And it could be
Mm.
anything, doesn't matter. I'm not looking for like I can speed pick 16 triplet 16ths at whatever tempo. That's not. I'm looking at everything, like technique, personality. Can you just vibe in with a band? Do you think that's a strength? It's like, fuck, I'd forgotten about that kind of stuff. And like really write down like what it is you love, what it is you think you're really good at, and you want to just use that and just kind of curate this person, because that's you. And I was
Mm.
like, right, shit, yeah, like I love like really weird ambient kind of atmospheric stuff, and I love like Eric Johnson's playing, but I don't, I'm not there technically. It's like great, but you're already starting to form a player,
Mm.
and I love like funk and groove stuff, and I love just sitting in with the band. Like, can I just make this one or two notes? Can I just fucking nail it on the snare drum with this drummer? I love doing stuff like that. It's like you're already shedding shit that you don't need. You've not mentioned sweep picking. You've not mentioned tapping. It's like, yeah,
Sure.
I don't lean into that really. I can kind of do it if
Yeah.
I have to, but it's not what I'm about. And then,
100%.
yeah, you just then start to develop like that's, yeah, this core kind of musical abilities and tastes and likes and dislikes. And
Mm.
yeah, like just I've spent the last couple of years just doing that, and it's, yeah,
You
I'm a
you're
much
right.
happier player.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Well, that's nice to hear, because that's exactly my experience. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm happier in myself, and yeah, happier in my sound, and some of that as well. That's from developing your own sound as a player, and also as an extension of that, it's having this kind of guitar trio that I have, having to write music.
Mm.
Again, it's the same thing. It's like, well, I might take, okay, yeah, maybe it's an Eric Johnson lick or something, but I can't quite play it like that. So I'm going to kind of bastardize that with
Yeah, yeah,
this idea over here. And then it's all just combinational, really, in many ways, and
yeah,
yeah, I'm the same. It's nice. It's nice to hear that, because yeah, I'm definitely happier now in myself and as a musician than I was. As I'm 39, going nearly 40, and yeah, I'm happier now than I was 10, like 5, 10. Well, especially no, yeah, especially 10 years ago, 100%.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That constant need to, like, you summed it up perfectly. Like trying to be the player you think everybody wants you to be is just,
Yes.
it's like
It's a
swimming against the tide with lead boots on. It's just
it,
you're gonna
it's
drown.
it totally a road to nowhere. And the irony of it is that most folk, or pretty much everyone, like musicians and non-musicians alike, they want you to sound like you, and they enjoy listening to you sounding like you. They don't want to listen to some crap like John
Yeah,
Mayer lick or something. Like, it's like, you don't have to do that, man. Just be you. It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay. That's yeah, that's a
yeah,
better way to look at
yeah.
it.
And stop scrolling on Instagram and like, oh my god, there's a 17-year-old kid in China who's crushing it. Look at this 12-year-old kid in Japan. Oh my god, and look at this guy who's doing all this country stuff. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that
I
becomes a headache.
Yes, but I think because of everything we've just discussed and what you've been discussing as well. Like I'm kind of cool with that now. It's like if there's
Yeah.
someone shredding their nuts off
Yeah.
and whatever, I'm like, oh, that's cool. They sound awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, you're just a bit more, musically satisfied or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Sandy, I'm going to let you go for the whatever you've got going on for the rest of the day. Really, really
Uh,
appreciate your time, and I do have to say
yeah.
sorry for messing you around the other day with
Oh, no,
timings and
not at all.
schedules and
Not at all.
stuff.
I was going to say, I was going to take this moment to be a self-promoting wanker. And I was going to say, with my own trio, I've got gigs. If you're in the southeast of England, I've got gigs in Brighton and London coming up. So Tuesday, the 18th of August, I've got a gig in London, in Dalston with my trio. And then the next day in August, Wednesday, 19th, I've got a gig at Alphabet in Brighton with my trio. And
Nice.
with some other amazing acts that we're supporting. So yeah, there you go. There's my shameless self-promotion.
No problem.
You can edit that out if you want.
No, no, editing requires work, and I just kind of let this do its thing. But yeah, dude, I really appreciate it, and it was lovely to catch up, and we'll stay in touch. Nice one. All right, I will
mate.
speak to you
Thanks,
soon.
dude.
Thank you.
See you later, dude.